The Tao of Jeet Kune, pages 1, pages 2, page 3. Dedication. This book is dedicated to the free, creative martial artist. Research your own experience. Absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is essentially your own. End of page. Page 4, Introduction. 1975, Linda Lee. My husband Bruce always considered himself a martial artist first and an actor second. At the age of 13, Bruce started lessons in the Wing Chun style of Kung Fu for the purpose of self-defense. Over the next 19 years, he transformed his knowledge into a science, an art, a philosophy, and a way of life. He trained his body through exercise and practice. He trained his mind through reading and reflection. And he recorded his thoughts and ideas constantly over those 19 years. The pages of this book represent a look into his life's work. In his lifelong quest for self-knowledge and personal expression, Bruce was constantly studying, analyzing, and modifying all available relative information. His principal source was his personal library, which consisted of over 2,000 books that dealt with all forms of physical conditioning, martial arts, fighting techniques, defenses, and related subjects. In 1970, Bruce sustained a rather severe injury to his back. His doctors ordered him to discontinue the practice of martial arts and to remain in bed to allow his back to heal. This was probably the most trying and dispiriting time in Bruce's life. He stayed in bed virtually flat on his back for 6 months, but he couldn't keep his mind from working. The result of which is this book. The bulk of these writings was done at this time, but many scattered notes were recorded at earlier and later times. Bruce's personal study notes reveal that he was particularly impressed by the writings of Edwin L. Hazlitt, Julio Martinez Castillo, Hugo and James Castello, and Roger Crosnier. Many of Bruce's own theories are directly related to those expressed by these writers. Bruce had decided to finish this book in 1971, but his film work kept him from completing it. He also vacillated I don't know how to say that word. Vacillated about the advisability of publishing his work because he felt it might be used for wrong purposes. He did not intend it to be a how-to book or a learn Kung Fu in 10 easy lessons book. He intended it as a record of one man's way of thinking and as a guide, not a set of instructions. If you can read it in this light, there is much to be aware of on these pages. You probably will have many questions. The answers you must seek within yourself. When you have finished this book, you will know Bruce Lee better, and hopefully you will also know yourself better. Now open your mind, read, understand, experience, and when you've reached that point of understanding, discard this book. The pages are best used for cleaning up a mess, as you will see. Page 5. Gilbert L. Johnson. In the hands of a singular man, simple things carefully placed ring with an undeniable harmony. Bruce Lee's orchestration of martial arts had that quality, which was most apparent in his combat motion. Immobilized for several months with an injured back, he picked up a pen. There, too, he wrote as he moved and as he spoke, with directness and with honesty. Like listening to a musical composition, understanding the elements within it adds a specialness to the sound. For this reason, Linda Lee and I are liberalizing the introduction of Bruce Lee's book by offering some insight into it in order to explain how it came about. The Tao of Jeet Kune actually began before Bruce was born. The classical Wing Chun style that started him on his martial way was developed 400 years before his time. The 2,000 or so books he owned and the countless books he read described the individual discoveries of thousands of men before him. There is nothing new within this book. There are no secrets. It's nothing special. Bruce used to say, and so it isn't. Bruce's special ability, his personal key, was knowing himself and his own capabilities to correctly choose things that worked for him and to convey those things through movement and language. He found an organization for his thoughts in the philosophies of Confucius, Spinoza, Krishnamurti, and others. And with that organization, he began the book of his Tao. Unfortunately, the book was only partially completed when Bruce died. Though it spanned 7 volumes, it filled only 1. Between major blocks of copy were unnumbered pages of unused paper, each headed by simple titles. Sometimes Bruce wrote introspectively, asking questions of himself. More often, he wrote to his invisible student, the reader. When he wrote quickly, he sacrificed his practiced grammar. And when he took his time, he was eloquent. Some of the material within the volumes was written in a single sitting and had the natural progression of a well-outlined conversation. Other areas were sudden inspirations and incomplete ideas that were quickly scribbled as they entered Bruce's head. These were scattered throughout the work. In addition to the 7 hardbound volumes, Bruce wrote notes throughout the development of his Jeet Kune and left them in stacks and drawers among his belongings. Some were outdated, Others were more recent and still valuable to his book. With the help of his wife, Linda Lee, I collected, scanned, and thoroughly indexed all the material. Then I tried to draw the scattered ideas together into cohesive blocks. Most of the copy was left unchanged. The drawings and sketches are Bruce's own. The book's organization, however, could not have been justly done were it not for the patient attention of Danny Inosanto. Bruce's assistant instructors and class of senior students, it was they who took my 8 years of martial arts training, threw it out on the floor, and turned the theories into action with their knowledge. They have my gratitude both as the editor of this book and separately as a martial artist. It should be mentioned that the Tao of Jeet Kune is not complete. Bruce's art was changing every day. Within the section of the 5 ways of attack, for instance, he originally began with a category called hand immobilization. Later, he found that 2 limiting as immobilizations could be applied to the legs, arms, and head as well. It was a simple observation that showed the limits of attaching labels to any concept. End of page.